again!
It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So, a good performance from both.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. Right, on the show today, ICC will meet on the 29th of this month to decide the fate of the Champions Trophy schedule. Pakistan, India and the ICC in a stare-off. Who will blink first? And should India think of travelling to Pakistan? What is the reason for a 25-year-old who was once touted to be the next Sachin Tendulkar going unsold at the mega IPL auction? Why did the talented Prithvi Shaw go unsold? Well, players he captained have gone on to now become IPL franchise captains. And Pep Guardiola flirts with controversy once again. Now we know Manchester City are having the worst run at the moment, but Guardiola seems to be losing the plot of the field too. Stay on to know more about that and of course the big breaking that's coming in just a bit. But first, a look at the headlines. Starting with cricket, West Indies beat Bangladesh by 201 runs in the first test of the two-match series. Bangladesh, chasing 334 to win, had just 3 wickets in hand on the final day. Alzari Joseph began the day by claiming 2 wickets. The match, of course, ended with Bangladesh's Shoriful Islam retiring from the game due to injury. Over in football, Arsenal beat Sporting CP 5-1 in a Champions League match. Gabriel Martinelli and Kai Havertz scored in the first half. Leandro Trossard scored the final goal for Arsenal minutes before the final whistle. Former Georgian international footballer Mikhail Kavelashvili has been nominated for the post of president. Mikhail featured for Premier League club Manchester City in the past and took up politics in 2016. NFL side Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Baker Mayfield has filed a lawsuit against a firm owned by his father. Mayfield has accused the firm of stealing $12 million. The quarterback is seeking compensation from the firm. And Indian wrestler Bajrang Punia has been slapped with a 4-year ban. Punia reportedly refused to provide his sample for a doping test in March. The Olympic wrestler will be out of action till at least 2028. The 30-year-old has also cannot apply for a coaching job in or outside India. All right, and of course the news that is coming in is some very positive one, especially for all Indian chess fans. And if you just tuning in, you'd know that D. Gukesh has leveled scores in the World Championship battle that he's currently engaged in with Ding Liren. Of course, he started off on the most horrible form. He started off with a loss. Ding Liren playing some very unusual and out-of-the-box chess to take that lead in the first game that happened a couple of days ago. And of course, after that loss, you could sense the desperation, the frustration in Gukesh. Seems like he knew he'd missed a trick or two. And of course, the second game saw Gukesh drawing with Ding Liren. And that gave you a bit of an indication that he was coming back into his own. He was trying to work his way back and he was trying to calm his nerves. In fact, Ding Liren, after that first game win against Gukesh, also said that maybe the moment got to Gukesh, the moment of it all, the nerves of such a big world championship for the very first time. And of course, he's just still a teenager, just all of 18 years. Maybe it was the moment that completely overawed D. Gukesh, which is what his opponent also made that comment after that second game. But the third game really sealed the scales. It's sort of made Gukesh come back into this tournament and has really opened up the tournament and made it all the more exciting. With this, of course, the points are level. 1.5 points is what both of them are at. Just to tell you how the tournament really works, this is a world championship where the two best players, in this case, of course, Ding Liren of China and India's D. Gukesh, pit themselves against each other across 14 classical games. It's obviously time-bound, with the first 40 moves being clocked for 120 minutes. And of course, after that, it's just 30 minutes with an increment of 30 seconds after 41st move. So it is a little time bound, and if you aren't able to make the right move in a certain stipulated time, it always puts you back. So this win has really come at the right time. And if you also remember, D. Gukesh for this particular tournament has even roped in the services of a mental conditioning coach in Paddy Upton, someone who's experienced how it is to work behind champion sides. Of course, this is the first time that he's working with a chess player, and this is the first time he's working with an individual athlete. So it is an interesting battle that is up against him. So just 3 games have now taken place. Of course, there's lots more to expect. There's lots more that will come our way. And the beauty of a contest like this is that it's a slow burn, in the sense that always you have to build your momentum up. You really can't go all out at the start, because you'll have to pace yourself and figure out how you can maintain that kind of intensity and that kind of confidence right through. So it is tricky to play these long tournaments where you're facing off against the same opponent over and over again. It's not an easy skill set that requires a separate level of mental fortitude, which Gukesh is trying to obviously draw out of. So this is obviously very interestingly poised at this moment to see that Gukesh has finally made a comeback, especially after that first game. Everyone felt that maybe the pressure of the situation and the fact that every other critique, chess grandmasters, including Magnus Carlsen, had announced that Gukesh would be the tournament favorite. And maybe that also tells a bit, puts a little bit of extra pressure on someone, a teenager at that. It's not easy, the kind of scrutiny, the kind of eyes that this World Championship is having from every quarter. But Ding Liren will know that this is pressure back on him again. Remember, Ding Liren also came into this particular World Championship with a loss at the Chess Olympiad, a tournament that saw India winning both the men's and women's categories. It was quite the momentum rush and a high in confidence that Gukesh came into this on the back of. But for Ding Liren, it hasn't been a very, very good last 1 year. In fact, in the last 12 months, he's only won 3 games. So it has been a very, very difficult period for the Chinese player in particular. So for him, it has been to try and battle past a lot of this coming into this encounter. And for Gukesh, there is a lot to look forward to. In fact, the next game is going to be the most interesting one, because at that point is when we will see who takes the lead, or does it still stay level. So keep watching this space as we keep looking at and reviewing this very, very important tournament from India's perspective. All right, India, Pakistan and the ICC, all three currently involved in a stalemate. ICC wants the Champions Trophy to take place no matter what. India doesn't want to travel to Pakistan. Now, of course, Pakistan doesn't want to give up even a small share of the hosting rights. So it's a 3-way tussle. And we all are waiting to see who will blink first. The latest is that the ICC is going to meet on the 29th of this month, that's just this Friday, to take a decision, announce the dates and the schedule of the Champions Trophy. Who is likely to hold sway? What is the decision likely to be? Who is most probably going to benefit from this, and who will lose out? I'm going to break down the equation for you. ICC is the International Cricket Council. And logically, the governing body calls the shots. That's what you think. The power will have to rest with them. But that's not how it works here in cricket. The most influential body when it comes to cricket the world over is India. The BCCI holds sway over a lot of the decisions. India is the biggest money spinner when it comes to cricket. The Indian Premier League is the biggest property the world over when it comes to this particular sport. So safe to say, what India wants, India gets. Now, India doesn't want to travel to Pakistan. I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. Why can't India travel to Pakistan? The cricketers of both the countries respect each other. There is a natural camaraderie, genuine mutual respect. Indian cricketers have many fans in Pakistan who are waiting to watch these superstars perform up close. Cricket is finally returning to the country. There is a sense of normalcy. Other countries have been touring. Pakistan, and there has been no untoward incident involving teams like New Zealand or England cricketers when they were here this year. But India feels unsafe. And here is what's reiterated their fears. Those are latest pictures of the mayhem that's gripped Pakistan. Violence. Supporters of the imprisoned Imran Khan protesting in Islamabad, and that protest, of course, turned violent. 4 paramilitary personnel and 2 policemen were killed. Over 100 security personnel have been injured. Pakistan was forced to deploy the army amid this tense standoff between the protesters and security personnel. It's made the Sri Lanka A team hit pause in the ongoing series that was underway against the Pakistan Shaheens. Their second game that was scheduled in Islamabad was in fact called off just hours before the start, with the remainder of the games, of course, in high uncertainty, indefinitely postponed after talks between the Sri Lankan Cricket Board and the Pakistan Cricket Board. The biggest irony for Pakistan is that the PCB chief here, Mohsin Naqvi, who also happens to be the interior minister with the government, and in their desperation to curb this violence, this unrest that has erupted in Pakistan, or at least be seen to have taken a firm iron stand, they've issued shoot-at-sight orders.
The protesters were trying to create a situation that would result in casualties. PTI's goal was to ensure bloodshed. Government would not allow such tactics to succeed. The stance is clear. No negotiations will be held with the protesters.
Clearly, the situation doesn't look good. Now, I understand the need to keep up a promise. To follow the rule book, Pakistan is supposed to host the ICC Champions Trophy 2025, come what may. But that come what may cannot be at the expense of security. That just cannot be the bargaining chip. How can Pakistan possibly hold its ground now and say that this Champions Trophy will entirely take place, has to entirely take place in their country? How can they even try to convince the ICC that the situation will all be under control in just 2 months from now and that a hybrid model is not required? Now, what about the ICC? Can the ICC convince or even insist upon India traveling to Pakistan this one time? No. Even if we look past the concerns of governance and that of security, however major they are, India is a big stakeholder in the game. Now, you obviously probably heard of some of this, but here's revisiting some of those key numbers to reinforce what I'm saying. This is, of course, the annual share of that revenue share from the 2024-2027 period, that the earnings that the boards earn when it comes to the ICC share. BCCI, of course, has secured the highest share from the ICC. That's nearly 40%. That's majority of the share that's divided between all the other boards, around 40% from the estimated $600 million that the annual earnings of ICC accrue. This is, of course, in this particular time cycle, 2024-27. None of the other boards are in double digits. In fact, the next highest earning board will be in 3 tiers, which is made up of England, Australia and Pakistan. Single digits figures. England 6.8% of the share, Pakistan 5.7, barely there. Of course, the subcontinent fans kind of contributing to that particular number. Australia 6.2. Of course, they will be followed by the third tier, which involves a few other boards, whether it's West Indies, South Africa, New Zealand, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. And then there is another tier which has a few other boards like Zimbabwe, Afghanistan, and of course, you have Ireland. All of this constitute to just 40% between all of these 8 boards. So clearly, India really stepping up when it comes to having a sway in ICC. And reason for the Indian board to get that share and not be contested, of course, is because of what India contributes. The contribution from the Indian market is estimated to be over 85%. And what's more, an Indian who was the former secretary at the BCCI will take the chair next month as ICC chairman, Jai Shah. So everything points to Pakistan being forced to make that U-turn, but will they be happy to succumb is what we have to see. Now, the IPL 2025 auctions concluded with many surprises. The biggest, of course, was 13-year-old Vaibhav Suryavanshi being sold for a whopping $130,000 to Rajasthan. And of course, the youngest in the tournament's history. That's a massive, massive plus. And while IPL is headed for a new phase with youngsters in the mix, some notable senior players like David Warner, Johnny Bairstow, Steve Smith and Kane Williamson all went unsold. All of them seasoned campaigners who unfortunately don't find a place in a vibrant, rapidly evolving T20 setup. The anomaly has been that of 25-year-old Prithvi Shaw going unsold. The Mumbai-born batter failed to attract any bidder, even for his base price of $88,000. Now, the reason Indian cricket fraternity, of course, is shocked is because this is a player who was touted to be the next Sachin Tendulkar, a superstar. Not just because of his talent, but because he showed promise at a very, very young age, much like Tendulkar himself. Shaw rose to fame after smashing 546 runs at just the age of 14. Shaw held up that record till 2016. That record stood still. Shaw went on to even captain India's under-19 World Cup winning team in 2018, which earned him an IPL contract with the Delhi franchise at the Indian Premier League, where he went on to play 79 matches, scored close to 2,000 runs with a strike rate of around 150. Somewhere along the way, though, even while playing the IPL, Shaw seems to have lost his way, which is why the Delhi franchise didn't persist with him at the mega auction.
There are so many players who don't get so many opportunities, but he got a lot. Now the fact that no one bought him at the auction is shameful. Even for 75 lakh rupees, he found no bidders. He now has to go back to the drawing board, score runs in domestic cricket and then get picked. Sarfaraz Khan is the biggest example.
Of course, the statement is loud enough to resonate with everyone. Prithvi Shaw, for all that promise and flair, did not do enough, was not good enough to warrant any bids, any interest of getting him over to any of the franchises. There was talk of domestic performances in that statement, so let's look at that as well. Through the 2023-24 Ranji season, that's the India's domestic tournament, Shaw scored around 451 runs in 6 matches. He batted in 9 innings with an average of 50, and twice he managed to go past that 50-run mark. Now, he did put in the numbers this year, even scored 300s the previous season. But here's the thing, the IPL snub was not the first blow Shaw had to deal with. It started with Shaw losing his spot in the Indian side in 2021, followed by his domestic side Mumbai just recently. They ran out of patience dealing with Shaw just a while back this year. The decision to drop him wasn't just based on form. Disciplinary issues, including missing training sessions and being indisciplined, forced his exit. Now, I've seen Shaw over the years, from the time he was creating waves as a teenager and letting his bat do all the talking, to now letting fame and the shine of making it at that stage at a very young age getting to him. The off-field time became longer than the on-field drills, where relying on skills alone to take him through became problematic. Today, cricketers need to be a complete package. To be picked in complex sides like an IPL franchise or even make it to a national side, you have to have multiple skills. Those that make you match winners on the field and the character that makes you a great team player off it. Traits that build your character as a sports person. And it was clear Shaw had missed the bus when it came to all of that. No wonder people he captained in 2018 have left him behind. Shubman Gill will now get a $1.9 million. Of course, this is Prithvi Shaw going unsold. One of his counterparts, Shubman Gill, he's captaining a Gujarat franchise, a franchise that's won the IPL, and he's accruing $1.9 million. Abhishek Sharma and Riyan Parag, both his teammates. $1.6 million is what each of them will earn. And India's star bowler Arshdeep Singh is set to rake in $2.1 million with the Punjab franchise. All of these players have played alongside Prithvi Shaw. And while Shaw is out of the Indian team, Gill and Arshdeep have cemented their spots in different formats for the country. Goes to show it is not enough to only hone or show skill sets that take you to some distance on the field, but also a strong character, the mental fortitude, the right head on your shoulders. That's a battle far tougher to combat and fight. You can score 50s, take fifers, but all of that comes to naught if you cannot be disciplined, cannot show character, stay in the lane and stay focused. Prithvi Shaw is probably going to be that example for youngsters to note the kind of path definitely not to take or go down. He did get the opportunities. He did have the chances to make it big. Cricket held up its end by giving him more than millions in this country can only dream of. But Shaw just did not hold up his end of the deal. Not a good time if you are a Manchester City fan. The club has yet again failed to secure a win. The streak has now extended to 6 games without winning a single match across all tournaments. Of course, some of you Manchester City fans will probably console yourselves, calling the 3-all draw against Feyenoord in the Champions League a silver lining. But let's be honest, the game was in City's hands. They were leading up until the 74th minute. The club gave up a 3-goal lead to draw the match, leaving Pep Guardiola frustrated. A roughed-up looking Pep Guardiola. In the pictures, you see Guardiola had a scratched-up face, but the scratches aren't from any on-field brawl. Apparently, it's something Guardiola did to himself.
Yeah, with my finger here, with my nail. I want to hurt myself. Yeah, good night.
Guardiola may have given that statement to make it seem like a bit of a joke, some light-hearted banter, but to say that he wants to hurt himself on live television is something that could land him in more trouble. It is, of course, another matter that Pep's remarks reflects the kind of state that the club, and of course by that extension, Guardiola, find themselves in now. From the winning highs, is Guardiola now losing the plot? The once champion side, and the pictures that you see there, is exhilarating, who were dominating the league under the same Pep Guardiola, have now stumbled from one loss to the next. To think this is happening after Guardiola decided to stay back and extend his contract with City for another 2 years.
I felt I could not leave now. Simple as that. Don't tell me the reason why. Maybe the 4 defeat was the reason why I felt that now I cannot leave. And yeah, I felt the club still want me or have the fact that they were together, and that's why we signed.
So the 4 defeats made Guardiola sign his contract extension. A draw in the 6th game has given Guardiola reasons to hurt himself. Clearly says Guardiola is losing the touch he once had. In addition, there has been an over-reliance on a fixed set of players.
It's difficult when you have to play without 4 central defenders, 2 holding midfielders, the best player in the world Rodri out, 3 wingers out. Just give me my players back. You'll see Man City.
But is it the right mindset from Guardiola? Sure, the absence of Rodri, a fully fit Kevin De Bruyne is definitely hurting City. But this is where Guardiola comes in to play. A good manager can work with the set of players available, with the tactics. That is what he's paid to do, to elevate a team from what they can do to what they can achieve. Guardiola has had minor slumps with both City and Barcelona in the past and has somehow found ways to turn the corner, but never have I seen him find excuses behind the losses and resort to this. Take former Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp. He was in a similar situation earlier this year. Klopp was without a majority of his star players like Mohamed Salah, Darwin Núñez and Trent Alexander-Arnold. A young Liverpool still managed to beat $1 million squad of Chelsea in the Carabao Cup final. That was the impact of a manager, of Jurgen Klopp. And this is where academy graduates and bench strength comes into play. What can the bench strength do, or the second string in this case do? The Indian men's cricket team, for example, just won a historic test against Australia without one of their key batters and their captain Rohit Sharma. Clearly, City and Guardiola are lacking that instinct. And maybe instead of scratching his face, what Guardiola needs to do is scratch his head a little more and rework his strategy. Find a way out. Because the best manager isn't someone who can win trophies with star players, but is someone who can transform an average-seeming squad to world beaters, like how Claudio Ranieri won the league title in 2016 with Leicester City. Clearly, Guardiola has a lot of thinking to do. And up ahead, it's going to be even more difficult because it's a test against Liverpool, which may very well decide how City's season is turning out to be. Right, time for last serve. Lewis Hamilton, has switched from steering wheel to a joystick, not for online gaming, but for his astronaut training. A childhood dream the Mercedes driver fulfilled in Texas. Take a look as Hamilton pilots a fighter jet. Well, that wraps up Firstpost here today. I'll of course see you again tomorrow with more fresh perspectives from the world of sports. Till then, bye-bye.
Firstpost